Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, March the 5th. We're going to cover Thursday's short four-game slate. Short slate today, but we'll talk through this slate position by position. I'll hit on some guys I like at each position. I'll give you guys some early thoughts, what I'm seeing as of Wednesday night when I'm recording this video. We'll talk about DraftKings pricing. We'll hit on some guys I like there. We'll switch over to Yahoo. We'll talk about some players I do like for Yahoo as well. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. I do post a lot of NBA videos pretty much every single day. When baseball season starts, I'm going to be uploading baseball videos every single day. So I got a ton of content coming out for you guys. Would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. Never want you to miss out on any of these videos. So let's go ahead and take a look at point guard. Or before we do get started, guys, as always, you can check out my Patreon content if you would like to. It's linked down below in the description. You can see all the exclusive NBA content I do have to offer over there. I also have a Twitter account if you want to give me a follow on Twitter. Stay up to date with me. My Twitter is linked down below in the description as well at DFS by Noah. But for point guard today, at the top of the position, we got James Harden and Russell Westbrook, our two most expensive options here over 10K. Westbrook is exactly 10K and Harden at 10.7. Looking at just studs on this slate, these are the two most expensive studs. You have Joel Embiid, but he's obviously not playing, so Harden and Westbrook are our two most expensive studs overall. I do have some interest in both guys. I think this is going to be a slate where we do have some value. Right now, it looks pretty easy to build around both these guys if that's the route you want to go. You can definitely fit in multiple studs today, whether that's Harden and Westbrook together, whether that's Westbrook and Jokic, Harden and Jokic. You got Kawhi you could also target on the other side of that game. Guys like Siakam and Lowry are definitely viable, depending on what happens with Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka. But just looking at Harden and Westbrook, choosing between the two, I honestly think I'd rather roster Russell Westbrook right now. Like, Westbrook has just been much more consistent than Harden. I know he's coming off a bad game against the Knicks. Only 39 DK points in that game. Just didn't really pick up the peripherals. I mean, he still had 24 points. Just only 9 rebounds, though. Just 3 assists. Only 1 block. Normally, Westbrook is a guy that's going to give you probably anywhere from 15 to 20 points at the minimum, just from peripherals alone. He can obviously score 30, 35 real-life points as well. He can usually get the defensive stats. I like Westbrook over Harden today, given the savings. Harden's $700 more than him. Now, on the season, Harden has better overall numbers. Just looking at their fantasy point per minute average, their usage rate, it's better for Harden. But as of late, Westbrook's kind of been the more productive player. I like him a lot at 10K here. I think he is one of the better stud options today. I like him a lot on Yahoo as well. He's $48, whereas James Harden is $54. So I think given the $6 savings, I would rather go to Westbrook as well. Westbrook's one of my favorite pay-up options. Against the Clippers, a good defensive team, it isn't like the most optimal matchup. This isn't a matchup I'm like, my mouth isn't watering over this spot. Obviously, the Clippers are a good defensive team. They have good defenders. They have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are two elite defenders. They have Patrick Beverley as well, who is an elite defender. I'm pretty sure Beverley's back, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's still hurt, is he? Yeah, Beverley's back, so he's playing. He's 3,600 too, which is kind of interesting. Really hasn't been doing much recently, but yeah, they do have elite defenders like Beverley, PG, Kawhi. I know in the past Beverley and Westbrook have kind of been rivals, I guess you could say. Like, they've definitely been enemies. Neither of those guys really like each other. So maybe with the matchup against Patrick Beverley, that gives Russell Westbrook a little bit more motivation if you want to buy into that. Regardless, though, I do like this matchup, or I do like this spot for him. Highest total game on the slate right now. This game has a 237 total. We don't have a total yet in the Denver-Charlotte game, but it's very likely that, or I wouldn't say it's very likely, that game is not going to have higher than a 237 total. So this Clippers-Houston game does have the highest total on the slate. I think it is one of the more appealing games, especially when you're looking for stud options. I think a lot of the best studs on this slate come from this game, with guys like Harden, Westbrook, Kawhi, PG. I really like Westbrook. He's one of my favorite pay-ups today. But then you have guys like Kyle Lowry, Steph Curry making his debut, or I wouldn't say debut, but his return for the Warriors. Hasn't played since October. October the 30th. That was the last time Curry has played in a game. Broke his hand, and then he's been out for like the last 5 months, I think, or 4 or 5 months. He's going to return. He's playing today, which is definitely interesting. We don't know yet what his minutes are going to look like. given it was a hand injury, I don't think he's going to be limited that hard. Like, it's not like he had an ankle injury or a hamstring or any kind of like leg injury. He's been able to stay in shape. I'm sure he's been working out, been getting good condition, or staying in good condition, I should say. Like at 8K, I think Steph Curry is definitely viable. If we're going to get 30, 32 minutes from Steph Curry, like this guy, I just expect him to get so much usage. I mean, he's going to be playing with a bunch of low usage players. Sure, Andrew Wiggins will demand the ball a little bit, but when Curry has the ball, like he's just going to be force-fed in this offense. He should be able to take as many shots as he wants. It's not the best spot against the Raptors. The Warriors getting Curry back makes it a little bit more likely this game stays close. I think at 8K, if Curry's not limited, like he is a really good option today. On Yahoo, it's a bit tougher to play him. He's really expensive on Yahoo. He's $44, whereas like Kyle Lowry is $11 cheaper. Russell Westbrook's only $4 more. I'm probably not going to get to Curry on Yahoo, but on DraftKings, like definitely give me some Steph Curry today at 8K if he's not limited. Just in his short sample with the Warriors this season, we'll pull up his numbers real quick. He only played like a couple games before he got hurt. I think he played like either 4 or 5 games before the injury occurred. We'll run the Curry real quick and see what his numbers were in that short sample size. So he's played 112 minutes this season, 30% usage rate, 1.42 fantasy points per minute, 34.7% assist percentage. I have to assume he probably keeps those numbers with no D'Angelo Russell. Like a lot of the guys off this team, Klay Thompson still not healthy. Curry should get probably 30+% usage rest of season. Probably going to average about 1.3 to 1.4 fantasy points per minute. It's just a matter of how many minutes will he play today. I think that's the question. If we can get confirmation he's not limited, or he can at least play like 30 minutes, I have a lot of interest in Steph Curry at 8K. Kyle Lowry, I didn't talk about him, but I definitely like Lowry as well, especially if Van Vliet's out again. Van Vliet and Serge Ibaka are both currently questionable. With both those two guys out, that is a big bump for Kyle Lowry. He sees a bump in his usage, just has the opportunity to do more offensively. The last few games with those guys out, he's been productive. Like against the Hornets, 38 minutes, 46 DK points. Against the Suns, 37 minutes and 45 DK points. I'd probably project him for similar numbers today, if not better. But honestly, if Curry's not limited, he might be my favorite play in this price range. Just really like Steph Curry here. I think there's just massive upside for him playing with a bunch of low usage players. Guys like Michael Murder, Jordan Poole, Damian Lee, like these guys aren't taking the ball away from Steph Curry. Whenever the Warriors have a possession, like Curry's gonna have the ball in his hands most of the time. Should be able to get as many shots up as he wants. So I really like him. Other options though, I think Jamal Murray's fine to go to 6,800. Really good matchup against a bad Hornets defense. Only downside is that the Hornets do play at a really slow pace. This game is going to have a really low total if I had to guess. These are two of the slowest paced teams in the league. Actually, they are the two slowest paced teams. Charlotte's dead last in pace. The Nuggets are 29th in pace. I don't expect a ton of points to be scored here, but both, or at least the Hornets, are really bad defensively. So it's a good matchup for Murray in terms of how bad the Hornets are on defense. At 6,800, he's fine to go to. If Fred VanVleet plays at 6,500, I like him quite a bit against the Warriors. I like that matchup for him. But Terry Rozier, I think, is someone that really stands out at 6,200. So with Devontae Graham out last game, that did allow Terry Rozier to put up really solid numbers. It was a somewhat good matchup against the Spurs. Played 36 minutes and had 35 DraftKings points. When you take both Devontae Graham and Malik Monk off the floor this season, Terry Rozier has averaged a fantasy point per minute with both those guys off the floor. We know he's going to play probably 34 to 36 minutes if this is a close game, which is kind of a big if. I mean, the Hornets are not a good basketball team. I don't know if they keep this game close, but at least one positive is that this game is being played in Charlotte, which I think should help keep it close. But just in 364 minutes with both Monk and Graham off the floor, averaging over a fantasy point per minute, 26% usage rate, 31% assist percentage. Really good numbers for Terry Rozier. It's a tough matchup. Like Denver is a good defensive team, but still, like if Devontae Graham is out again, and because this is the first game on the slate, we'll have this news before lock. If Graham is out again, I think Terry Rozier at 6,200 on DraftKings is still too cheap. I don't really buy into this, but for what it's worth, he put up 42 DK points in 36 minutes against the Nuggets when they played earlier this season, if you want to take that into account. Regardless, though, I really like Terry Rozier if Graham's out again. I think even if Graham plays, like Rozier is fine to go to. I would just prefer that Graham be out. But there's not much else that stands out in this mid-range. Like, Graham is questionable. I guess if he plays, he's fine to go to a 5,800. Lou Williams in a big-time pace-up spot against the Rockets, I guess you could go to. Like, there's definitely upside for him here. But his minutes have been way down. Like, he's not getting massive minutes, playing about mid-20s to low 20s in minutes a night. This feels like a spot where maybe Lou Williams could get close to 30 minutes in a game that should be competitive, should be high-scoring. There's plenty of upside for him, so he's not out of play at 5,900. Just, I don't know if he's a guy that I get to. Like, if I'm playing one lineup, I doubt I go to Lou Williams. And then, like, these Warriors guys, I'm just going to be off of them. Like, Jordan Poole, Damian Lee, Michael Murder. Like, I'm just not going to these guys now that Steph Curry's back. Really, my only interest from Golden State is Curry and maybe Andrew Wiggins. In terms of value, though, at point guard, I don't think there's any cheap plays that really stand out. Like, even with Josh Richardson out last game, Alec Burks only played 22 minutes, which really was a big disappointment. I had a lot of interest in Burks on that slate. He really disappointed, only 18 DK points in 22 minutes. We just don't know what his minutes are going to look like. I do expect him to be productive when he's on the floor, but the price has come up. He's up to 5K on DraftKings, so really don't think we need to go there. So, yeah, that's probably it for me for point guard values. Reggie Jackson's, yeah, he's just been getting like mid-20s, low teens in minutes. I don't really think we need to go there. I rarely target like anybody from the Clippers besides Kawhi or PG. Obviously, Harrell and Lou Will are in play, but like Kawhi and PG just take up so much usage from that team. I don't really go to like any of the secondary plays. If you were to do it, I guess on a 4-game slate, that would be the time to. But let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard. I think we covered all the point guard options. So at the top here, you have Andrew Wiggins for 7,800. I just don't think I can pay this price tag for Andrew Wiggins now that Steph Curry is back. I think Wiggins is definitely going to take a hit when with Curry back in the lineup. He's obviously not going to get nearly as much usage. He's just not going to be as productive of a player, if I had to guess. I'd probably rather save $1,000, play a guy like Jamal Murray against the Hornets. Even if Fred VanVleet's out again, I doubt I want to go to Norman Powell. I mean, he's really expensive. He's 6,600. I'd rather play Jamal Murray over Norman Powell, even if VanVleet sits. Like I said earlier, though, if VanVleet plays at 6,500, he's definitely a fine option. Like I said, I don't really like any of these Warriors guys anymore now that Curry's back, like Damian Lee, Jordan Poole. I don't really want to go to these guys. Will Barton, I guess, is fine. 5,600 against the Hornets. He's been terrible as of late, but it is a really good matchup against a bad defensive team. So did want to mention him. But just in terms of value at shooting guard, a guy like Ferdinand Korkmaz could maybe get some run off the bench. Last game with Josh Richardson and obviously Ben Simmons out, played 24 minutes, had 22 DK points. I don't know if I really want to go to him at 4,500. His price came up a little bit. Really, there's not a ton of value at shooting guard. You do have Caleb Martin you could go to. He played 27 minutes last game off the bench with Devontae Graham out. I assume he probably gets similar run today. You also have Cody Martin you could play from the Hornets. They have twin brothers on that team. Make sure if you're rostering one of those two guys, make sure you roster the right one. If I am going to go to one of those guys, it's definitely going to be Cody Martin because he got the start. He played big minutes, but even Caleb off the bench played 27 minutes. So at 3,400, if you're going to get like 26, 28 minutes from Caleb Martin, he could easily give you 20, 25 DK points. So he's fine at 3,400 if Graham is out again. But yeah, I think that's probably it for shooting guard. So let's go ahead and look at the small forward position. So at small forward, you do have Kawhi for 9,300 against the Rockets. I do like Kawhi today. Kawhi is not a guy that I've played much this season. Whenever the Clippers are fully healthy, like I just really don't play Kawhi. But it's a short 4-game slate. This is a really good spot against Houston. Houston, in terms of pace this season, are playing at the 4th fastest pace in the league. The Clippers are playing at the 8th fastest pace. So relatively, these are two pretty fast-paced teams. We see that with the total, 237 total right now. I think this game is going to be close. This is obviously one of the best games in the night to target, given the high total, just a 1-point spread currently. Right now, I think I would rather go to Westbrook and Jokic over a guy like Kawhi Leonard, but Kawhi Leonard would definitely be a third for me. He's probably my third favorite stud behind Jokic and Westbrook. We'll talk more about Jokic when we get to center. But for 9,300, there's definitely 55-point upside for Kawhi in this spot. Like I said, a fast-paced Rockets team, a fast-paced game, a high-scoring game. He's had some success against the Rockets this season, averaging 47 DK points through 3 games against them. Even with Paul George back in the lineup, like he's just been he hasn't really been that great lately, especially for fantasy. Like you just look at the game log, it is really bad right now. I mean, Paul George is really struggling. Even though he's shooting well from the field, he's just not taking a ton of shots. He's not really contributing with the peripherals either. Like, he's shooting 60% in these games, like 61%, 60%, but that doesn't really matter when you're only getting 4 rebounds and 1 assist, 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Like, if PG was contributing more with peripherals, he'd be a much better option. But he's just really kind of been scoring dependent recently, which really kills his upside. And given he's 7,400, I doubt I'd go to PG today. I think if I'm going to pay up at small forward, it's going to be for Kawhi. Kawhi is definitely one of my favorite guys to target from the Clippers today. Tobias Harris is expensive. He's up to 7,900. He had a rough game last game against the Lakers, but this is a much better spot today against the Kings. Not nearly as good of a defensive team. We know Tobias Harris is going to play massive minutes if this is a close game, which it should be. I have some interest in him. I'd probably try and get up to Kawhi if possible, but Tobias Harris is definitely in play. I think I would prefer Tobias Harris over guys like Wiggins and Paul George. Even if Van Vliet and Ibaka are out again, like Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, like these guys are just too expensive in my opinion. I don't think I really get to them. OG obviously came back down to earth last game. Everybody knew that was coming. I even said in my video, I said I'm not rostering OG. 31 Draftkings points, like the guy just doesn't, he's not going to put up 45, 50 DK points every game. He's not going to get 6, 7 steals every game. Like, I hate to say it, but if you rostered OG on the last slate, you're a complete fish. I mean, that's not something I would have done. He's not that productive of a player. On the season, he averages like 0.8 fantasy points per minute. His floor is literally like 20 points. Sure, he's shown upside, but it's 6,400. Like, what kind of upside are you actually getting? Like, you need him to put up like 40, 45 DK points. You need him to have a ceiling game to even be a good play at that price. If OG was like 5K today, I think that'd be a different story. But now that he's priced up, I just really have no interest. And kind of the same with Norman Powell. Powell's been pretty good as of late without Van Vliet and without Ibaka, but his price is up to 6,600. So what are you really getting there out of that salary? If I was going to play these guys, it'd probably be on Yahoo. They're both $22. I think that's a much more reasonable price. If I had to choose one, I'd probably go with Powell over OG. But, I mean, if Van Vliet and Ibaka play, I don't have interest in either guy. But other small forwards, Will Barton, like I said earlier, he's fine in the mid-range at 5,600. In terms of value, though, we do have some cheap plays at this position, some viable cheap options. So Cody Martin started last game with Devontae Graham out. Played 34 minutes and had 27 Draftkings points. He was really productive. He got off to a really hot start, kind of cooled down later in the second half. But, I mean, if he's going to play like mid-30s in minutes, I know it's not the best spot against Denver, but he's still somewhat cheap today at 4,500. If Graham's out again, I think Cody Martin is fine to go to. He's really cheap on Yahoo. He's still minimum salary over there. So if you're going to play Cody Martin, I think you definitely do it on Yahoo. Minimum salary, small forward. That looks very appealing. We do also have Glenn Robinson, who I like quite a bit as a value option. He's 4K on DraftKings. He was kind of the bright spot last game for the Sixers with Josh Richardson, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons all out. We saw Glenn Robinson play 31 minutes off the bench, was really productive, had 35 DraftKings points, 25 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Now, although I don't expect him to be as productive as he was last game, I don't expect him to shoot nearly 70% from the field, 60% from 3. I don't think that's going to happen again. If he's going to play like upper 20s to low 30s in minutes, even off the bench at 4K, I think Glenn Robinson is definitely appealing as a value option. We can take a look at his numbers with all of Simmons, Embiid, and Richardson off the floor. It's going to be a pretty small sample size. We don't have much of a sample with all these guys out, but I'll pull up the numbers just real quick so you guys can see. Obviously, guys like Al Horford, Tobias Harris are going to be the main beneficiaries, but there are definitely some other guys that benefit. 56 minutes for Glenn Robinson with all of those 3 guys off the floor, averaging about 0.9 fantasy points per minute, 0.87 fantasy points per minute, just an 18% usage rate. You don't expect him to be a high usage player, especially when he's playing alongside guys like Harris and Horford, but still close to 0.9 fantasy points per minute. And if he's going to play 30 minutes, I think he projects for probably like 25, 26 DK points, which feels pretty good at 4K. I do like him as kind of an early look value. I think there's even a possibility he moves into the starting lineup with how well he played. Last game they started Matisse Thybulle and Mike Scott. I think it's possible you see Glenn Robinson move into the starting lineup over Thybulle. That would just make me have even more interest in him. I think he just gets even more minutes if he does wind up starting. So at 4K, I like him as a value. He's really cheap on Yahoo as well, only $11. I think he looks like a pretty good value small forward. You do have Cody Martin at $10 you could also play. if you want to go to him, I'm fine with that. I think I'd slightly lean Robinson over him, but both guys do stand out as cheap options. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to power forward now. Looking at this position, you got Pascal Siakam, your most expensive power forward, 9,100 on DraftKings against the Warriors. I do have a good amount of interest in Siakam today if Serge Ibaka and Van Vliet are out again. What sucks is that this is the last game on the slate. This is the 10:30 game, so I'm not sure if we're going to get that news before lock, which definitely makes it a bit iffy. It's not like Siakam is a bad play at 9,100. I would just prefer those two guys be out. The upside is just much higher for Siakam when you take those guys off the floor. Had 52 DK points last game with both Ibaka and Van Vliet out, played 43 minutes. We know Siakam is locked into massive minutes if it's a close game. Now, this game against the Warriors could blow out, but I think because it's being played in Golden State, because Steph Curry's back, that just makes it more likely the game stays close. If we do get an afternoon update on Siakam, or an afternoon update on Ibaka and Van Vliet, if we do get the update in the afternoon, they're both out, then that would definitely make me very interested in Pascal Siakam. Still would prefer guys like Jokic, Westbrook, probably Kawhi as well. He'd probably be my fourth favorite stud, though, behind those three guys. Other power forwards, though, Al Horford, like him quite a bit again, 7K on DraftKings. He was disappointing last game against the Lakers, 33 minutes, just 31 DK points. But the price tag really didn't move. He's still 7K on DraftKings. He's still very affordable on Yahoo. He's only $24 over there. I definitely like going to Al Horford on Yahoo at power forward. I think him and Tobias Harris are both underpriced. You have Tobias Harris at $32. Siakam at $38 looks great as well. I think he's a really good pay-up option. But Horford at $24 really stands out as a good cheap option, or mid-range option, I should say. For him to be a good play at this price, I'd probably want about 35, 40 fantasy points, which I think he can easily do. You look at his numbers this season with all of Embiid, Richardson, and Simmons off the floor. He has been a very productive player, averaging 1.28 fantasy points per minute, 20% usage rate, 27% assist percentage, 17.5% total rebound percentage. Those are really good numbers for Al Horford. Massive bumps from what his season-long numbers are. Much better matchup today against the Kings rather than having to face the Lakers. So I definitely have interest in Al Horford again. More so on Yahoo than DK, but I think on both sites, he's definitely in play. Other power forwards, really not much stands out in the mid-range. I think if I'm not paying up for guys like Siakam, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, then I'm probably going cheap here. We do have some value at power forward. So Cody Zeller started last game. Bismack Biyombo got a DMP. Willie Hernan-Gomez was the backup center. Zeller started, only played 19 minutes. Was still productive, though. Did have 20 DraftKings points in those 19 minutes. I don't know how many minutes he plays today, but if he is starting again, I think he's definitely in play as a cheap option at $4,300. The price tag did move up a little bit. He's up from $3,900 to $43,000. But if we can get like 22, 25 minutes from Cody Zeller, somewhere in that range, he can easily give you 25, 30 DK points. He's a pretty productive player when he gets the minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute player. So I don't mind Cody Zeller as a value at $4,300. But I also really like Mike Scott quite a bit. So Mike Scott did get the start last game with both Josh Richardson, Joel Embiid, all three of those guys off the floor. No Richardson, no Embiid, no Ben Simmons. They went with the starting lineup of, I'm blanking here, Shake Milton started at point guard, and then they started Tybal at the 2. Tobias Harris started at the 3, Mike Scott at the 4, and then Al Horford at center. I don't know if that's what they do today. Because of how well Mike Scott's played the last 2 games, I think they're going to continue to give him the minutes. He's played 26 and 36 minutes the last 2 games, has been very productive with 30 and 28 DraftKings points. He definitely has the opportunity, now that you take Embiid, Simmons, and Richardson all off the floor. Those are, or at least 2 of those 3 guys are pretty high usage players, or kind of ball-demanded players. That's going to allow for Mike Scott to get the ball in his hands more, get the opportunity to shoot more shots. He's been somewhat productive with 0.82 fantasy points per minute with those guys off the floor. I mean, if we're going to get Mike Scott starting and playing 30, 32 minutes, maybe even more, at $3,800, I think he looks like one of the better cheap options on today's slate, one of the better punt plays under 4K. He's also minimum salary on Yahoo, so I think as a cheap option there, looks very appealing at power forward for just $10. I really like Mike Scott as a value play under 4K. I think, like I said, he's probably one of the best punt plays. It'd be close between him and Caleb Martin on who I would like the most under 4K. I think right now I definitely lean Mike Scott. Just because the minutes have been there, with how well he's played, I think they're going to continue to give him the run. He started last game, so I have to assume he starts again, which is going to make him a very appealing value option. Even with Serge Ibaka out last game. RHJ went back to the bench, only played 8 minutes. That's definitely going to get me off of him today. I don't know who starts for Ibaka if he's out again. They went with Patrick McCall in the starting lineup, but we saw late in that game Chris Boucher got a lot of run, had a very massive game. We will definitely talk about Chris Boucher as a value. But I think we covered everything for power forward. So let's go ahead and look at the center position real quick just before we end the video. So at the top, you got Nikola Jokic, who I absolutely love today. One of my favorite pay-up options on the slate. $9,500 on Draftkings. Switching over to Yahoo, $46 over there. Just love Jokic in this spot against the Hornets. I was very high on Jokic the last time they played the Hornets. It didn't really go well. He only put up 38 DK points in 29 minutes. Was kind of disappointing. But this is such a good spot for him. This Hornets team has been getting absolutely killed by bigs this season. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league as well. They rank 26th in rebound percentage. I'm pretty sure in terms of fantasy points allowed to centers, they're like either top 3 or top 4 in terms of fantasy points allowed to the position. Such a good spot for Jokic. I think the only concern you have is that maybe this game blows out. Maybe the Nuggets just blow out the Hornets. But we saw last game in a game that should have been a blowout. I think the Nuggets were favored by like 16 points against the Warriors. They actually wound up losing that game by 16. So you just never really know. It's so hard to predict blowouts. Even though some games may seem like they're going to be blowouts with the NBA, games can stay close. The Hornets are playing at home, which I think makes it a little bit more likely the game stays close. We should get 32 to 34 minutes from Jokic. If this is a close game, and with how good of a matchup it is, there is definitely triple-double upside for him, 65 point upside. Would not be surprised at all if he's the highest scoring player on the slate, if he outscores guys like Harden, Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard. In terms of just studs on the slate, Jokic is my number one guy. I think this is an absolute smash spot for him. Definitely one of my favorite pay-up options today. But then other centers, 6,500, I think Montrezl Harrell's interesting here against the Rockets. This feels like a spot where maybe Montrezl Harrell would actually get a lot of run with how the Rockets play small ball. Montrezl Harrell is a somewhat small center. Could match up well against a guy like PJ Tucker, Robert Covington, whoever's out there guarding him. The price tag has come up to 6,500, but this is a pretty good matchup for him, a spot where he should have some success, a fast-paced game, should have plenty of opportunity to get putbacks, to get, obviously, points scored. The minutes have been a concern. The minutes have been a concern for Lou Williams as well. But I think most nights you're probably going to get like 26 to 28 minutes from both guys. They are relatively productive players when they're on the floor. Even playing alongside Kawhi and PG, that's obviously going to hurt their fantasy production, but they'll get some time on the floor without those guys, and that's when they're going to be most productive. So if you're not going to Jokic at the top, I think Harrell's fine to go to in the mid-range. I think if Serge Ibaka plays at 6K against the Warriors, he definitely looks like a pretty appealing option as well in the mid-range. I do like him a good amount. And then in terms of value plays at this position, there's really no cheap options here besides Cody Zeller you could play. We'll talk about Chris Boucher as well. Other than those two guys, though, I don't think there's much else. So we talked about Zeller earlier. He started last game, probably starts again. 4,300, you could definitely go there. Chris Boucher, however, 4,300 as well. Played 29 minutes last game against the Suns. Had a massive game, went for 45 Draftkings points. We saw Chris Boucher just pretty much get like all the run that Rodney Hollis-Jefferson had been getting. They played a lot of Boucher and Boucher and Siakam alongside each other. This is a Warriors team that does play pretty small. I don't know if they're going to do that today. Maybe we see Chris Boucher slide into the starting lineup. Maybe they start him at the 4. Maybe they'll start Siakam at the 4 and then Boucher at the 5. Like, we don't really know here. But if Serge Ibaka is out again, I think Boucher is definitely interesting. If Van Vliet's out again, that would just make me even more confident he gets some minutes. It's more likely they can play like a big lineup like that. Marc Gasol is also questionable, so I think that's something worth noting. Obviously, if those guys are in, I'm not playing Chris Boucher. But if Ibaka, Gasol, Van Vliet, if all those guys are out again, like, definitely give me some Chris Boucher at 4,300. I know the price came up, but this guy is an incredibly productive player when he gets the minutes, and showed that last game against the Suns with 45 DK points in 29 minutes. Has massive upside when they give him big minutes. I don't know if we can expect 29 minutes again, but even low to mid-20s, that could be enough for Boucher to pay off this price. So he's a really good value option depending on what happens with some of those Toronto injuries. That'll definitely be something to keep an eye on heading into Thursday. But I think we covered everything, guys, for this 4-game slate. Short slate today. Pretty sure there's a big slate on Friday, so we'll be back on Friday with a massive slate to talk about. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like down below. Hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. If you have not yet, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. You can also check out my Patreon exclusive content, which is linked down below in the description. I have a lot of content going up there Monday through Friday. I give updated core plays as injuries break. I'm providing updates. I have an article that I write Monday through Friday. Very in-depth, talking about all my favorite plays on the slate. So if you want to check out the Patreon, it's linked up down below in the description. Feel free to do so. But best of luck tonight, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.